Welcome to another episode of Unraveling Success. I am so excited today to have, if you can't tell, this is just me. There's nobody else with me today. This is a solo episode with just me. So I was challenged by the person actually that produces Unraveling Success for me to share my story, which when she gave me this suggestion was mildly terrifying because if there's one thing I've learned, it is that putting myself out there is actually much harder than I ever imagined that it was going to be. I learned this first a couple of years ago when we had this very large goal to be doing a bunch of video. And once I started, I realized that I felt like I looked like a puppet in Frozen, and I would overscript myself. So then I would sound like a robot with no personality. And it's actually one of the reasons why, there's multiple reasons why, which I'll get into that a little bit later in this podcast episode. But one of the reasons why I wanted to even start Unraveling Success is because it is pushing me far outside my comfort zone. So I guess after we've been launched the podcast now this past February, I have enough experience under my belt to, I guess, share my own story and be out in front without another person alongside of me. So what I decided to do to share my story was to prompt ChatGPT to ask me if, questions that it would have if it were to interview me. And so that's how I came up with the questions. Fun little tidbit is not too long ago, I actually took this workshop, and it was an actual workshop. Like I did the work as we worked through the workshop, and I trained ChatGPT about Aspire and about me. And so it's kind of funny because when I prompted the questions, it already kind of had the intelligence of me and the background with Aspire and that type of thing to be able to ask me the questions that were relevant. And so I haven't really actually taken much time to review these questions. And the reason is because I really do best when I'm unscripted. I think I just mentioned a couple minutes or so ago that if I overscript myself, I start sounding like a robot, and nobody wins in that moment. So I'm going to just kind of go through these questions, share a little bit about my story, and then I'm going to end with sharing some of my takeaways and wins and learns, I guess you could say, about unraveling success and what you can expect to hear from us in 2025. So I'm excited about some of the new things that we have up our sleeves, and it'll be fresh and new and some things to kind of mix things up. So, all right. So here is the first question that chat asked me. It says, can you share the story behind starting Aspire Insurance Group? What motivated you to take the leap into entrepreneurship? So I can say for sure that I've always had entrepreneurship as a core of who I am. So if you talk to my mom, one of the stories that will come up pretty quick with me is that I used to go to in my room, and I would take things that I felt like I could make money off of selling, and I would make a garage sale on our front porch, and then I would usually get busted because some mom would come and want something and then would knock on the door and say, like, do you know that your daughter's having a garage sale out here? And then that was a determining factor back in the day when I was trying to sell my strawberry shortcake sheets at one point. So from that to creating plans of libraries and zoos and horse farms, as well as deciding when I was in grade school that I was definitely going to raise money to buy a horse, and I would go door to door knocking in the neighborhood to raise money, excuse me, to buy a horse. And then actually in fifth grade, we actually did move to the country, and I did buy a horse. So I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit in me since really, really early on in life. And But that was never the plan. I actually planned on going into nursing. And so, funny thing is, I moved out of my parents' house when I was 18 for no other reason than I'm stubborn and I want to do things by myself. And so, I found myself through a series of very interesting events taking a job as a full-time receptionist at a State Farm agency when I was 20 years old. So, I just was trying to pay my rent and my bills and had really no other plans on insurance. And I guess I'm one of those stories, and I feel like this is common in insurance, that once you're in insurance, um, it just like you can't leave the industry. Like it just gets a hold of you somehow. After some time at State Farm, actually about 3 months, I ended up getting licensed. So my 24th year, entering my 25th year in insurance will actually be February of 2025. And after I got licensed, I started doing some service work. So I serviced and then I moved into sales, and then I did a bunch of different like reporting and just operations. I learned commercial insurance some on the State Farm side, which is very different when it's in a captive environment because I kind of have like their own forms, their own verbiage. It's kind of like, it's really like having a franchise, honestly. Like they kind of have their own little world going. Which I'll talk about a little bit later because it all kind of ties into the story of how. But I was actually at State Farm for 10 years, and I learned so many amazing things at that agency. It was a well-operated agency, so I learned really awesome operations. It was also really hard for me because I am a visionary and I'm a connector. And I would say from a sales standpoint, if you want to call it that, I'm definitely relationship based. I'm a farmer. And the philosophy there was a lot of like cold calling and X dates and like that type of thing, which is it's not a congruent how for me. And so that led to it being difficult, and for a variety of different reasons, culturally as well. This being said, I have nothing negative to say because these are all the things that also teed me up to be able to want to take my next leap, which was after 10 years at the State Farm agency that I was at. I actually ended up taking a giant leap of faith on myself, which I think is a key to many of the success stories that I hear on Unraveling Success, is being willing to bet on yourself. And I left State Farm after 10 years and started a book of business at an independent agency from scratch. So although my non-compete at State Farm was not legally binding, it was ethically binding to me and my heart. I didn't want to start a book of business by stealing clients. So I truly started from scratch and honored my non-compete. And so, yeah, so I started from square one. I navigated this contract when I negotiated. I navigated my first right of refusal. So that meant that I had the ability to buy the book that I built. And in hindsight, that's just a huge blessing because 3.5 years later, so I started on my own scratch as an agent in 2010. And 3.5 years later, I decided to purchase my book of business and start Aspire Insurance Group. And my tenure at the agency that I started building my book at was really rich in commercial insurance. I kind of took a deep dive in. I had an amazing mentor. Thank you, Laurel, if you're listening to this, on commercial insurance, who really took me under her wing and showed me the ropes and taught me things. And super thankful for that time. Also, a huge curveball during that time because after 10 years at a State Farm agency, had this idea that I knew insurance. But like I said before, in the captive environments, like their forms are different, their verbiage is different. They're kind of encapsulated in like their own, different like world, I guess you could say. That's not bad or anything. It's just different. When I got into the independent side, that's when I learned like it does not all translate. There's coverage differences between companies and forms that I had never seen before, and verbiage that wasn't normal, that I thought was normal when I was at State Farm. So anyway, it was a big adjustment for me, and there was a variety of things for me that just made me want to create something of my own. So after 3.5 years, it was July 1st of 2014, I started Aspire Insurance Group. So I purchased my book of business that I had built, and that was the foundation of Aspire. So it was just me, and I had zero idea what I was actually doing. And but I guess I had already learned from my experience in 2010 that I could roll the dice on myself. And I knew that I was gritty enough to just, figure it out. And that I was brave enough to be able to fall on my face and just know that I would get up again. And so it was just me, and thank God for my husband, Adam, because lots of data entry, ridiculous amounts of data entry, and just learning how to quote, because when I was on the independent side, I had a support team that would quote for me. So learning how to quote, learning how to just manage the ins and outs of an insurance agency as an infant, and systems to build on, and all kinds of stuff. And that was where I was really thankful for the foundation of solid operations that I had at State Farm, at the State Farm agency that I worked at. So I was able to translate all of that into the agents, into Aspire. And that was a huge blessing for me. So Aspire has grown. Actually, we don't advertise at all. We have grown only by word of mouth, minus we have done two acquisitions. We did an acquisition. Our first one was in 2020. It was an agency up in Gilbert, Minnesota. Ironically, we are Aspire Insurance Group, and we purchased Aspire Insurance Agency. So that was a very nice coupling in 2020. So it's our first like big stretch of growth from acquisition standpoint. And then we have done a second acquisition down in the Janesville, Wisconsin area, and that was completed April of 2024. So I guess flash forward, this year we turned 10, so very exciting time. We are a team of 11 and 2 locations, and just really headed into, growth mode. The team I have right now is just near and dear to my heart in just so many different ways. That they are just the kindest, hardest working, authentic, just it's just a really connected, great team. I could not be more thrilled with the people that we have. Every butt is in the right seat, and I couldn't be prouder of who they are as a team, which then makes up who we are as an organization. I would say my why, as far as starting Aspire, was that there's a couple things I see there can become very big cultural issues in agencies. And so culture, even though it's such a buzzword, it's a really big deal for me. And we spend so much time of so many of our waking hours at work. And I just am super passionate about creating an environment where people can grow and thrive and look forward to being, and that's going to be invested in getting the best out of each individual. not just selfishly for the agency, but also for them. It's one of the reasons why growth is one of our core values. Is I mean it in a holistic manner. I mean, of course, we want to grow the agency, but actually, we can't grow the agency if we don't grow ourselves. So it has to start with the individual. So that was very important to me. The other part that was really important to me is freedom and flexibility in the workforce. When I first started my book of business, my kids were 2 and 3, now 16 and almost 18. I just needed a ton of freedom and flexibility. And we're in an industry, the insurance industry is an industry that can provide freedom and flexibility if the people that are casting the vision will allow it to be so. I don't think that just because you have freedom and flexibility in a career that you need, that it's either you're there as a present and connected parent or you have a thriving career. Both can happen. And there needs to be a certain setup and certain expectations. But it can be done and it is being done. So I would say those were the biggest whys for me, is the freedom and flexibility and culture. Um, and we've created that at Aspire. And oddly, very oddly, in 2014, because of the flexibility that I needed, we actually started out being built remote from day one. So our systems have always been cloud-based. Automation has always been a part of what we do, simply because of my need for that, because I needed freedom and flexibility. So as we've grown, both through acquisition and also as we've all navigated COVID, those times where much of the insurance industry needed to bob and weave because they didn't know how to, all of a sudden have their workforce be remote. That was just, part of the core of what we were already doing. Secretly, I was a little bit not happy about that, though, because I felt like it was kind of our secret sauce, and now it's just the new norm. So, but anyway, that's kind of the long-winded story of how Aspire started. So, the next question that chat asked me is, how do you balance your personal life with the demands of running a successful agency? And with that, I would say, if you have listened or watched anything I do, one of your biggest takeaways is that I plan ahead a ton. I am always planning. And I sit down every Sunday and plan my whole entire week. I call it my Sunday sit down, and I have a method for it. On a monthly basis, I look backwards to see, how am I investing my time? Is my time being invested in the same priority order that my mouth says that my priorities are? Because my mouth can say my priorities are a certain way, but if it's not showing up on my schedule, then I'm not living congruently. And that's a big deal to me. I also do a lot with time blocking. For instance, I don't start meetings for myself until 9 a.m. in the morning, and my meetings need to be tied up by 3, because I believe that leaders build slack in their day. And so I am careful to not overschedule, which also means that I have to be really good at delegating, and delegating in a way where my team is set up to succeed with the things that I'm delegating them, which means I need to be very clear. I always that tagline, like, to be kind is to be clear is to be kind. So I delegate in a way that my team is set up to succeed at what I delegate them. So that takes a little bit of extra time. And I just have to work on good boundaries. In the past, I have had a tendency to say yes to too many things. And like my husband likes to say, you're spread a mile wide and an inch deep. And so I try to be really careful of, the things that I'm putting on my plate. And, there will be times where I will have somebody sit in a meeting for me, or I have different tools and techniques. Like one tool that I use is Read AI, and it's in every single meeting with me. And so if I can't be in a meeting, it will still be in a meeting. So I'm able to go back and hit the high notes, take the takeaways, and it will help me with action items as well. So just finding a way to kind of simplify what I have on my plate, or ways to help me seem as though I'm in multiple places at one time, even though I'm clearly not. So that would be, I also just think, practicing no, and really uncoupling the idea that being busy or overscheduled is somehow some like banner of success, because it's really not. It's not a good look. I like to embrace this thought of like a leisure hustle. Like, I work hard and I play hard, and my schedule is run in a way where I'm doing a good job of taking care of myself, so that I can take a good care of my team and my business. And in order for me to actually do that, I also then need to make sure that I'm present and connected with my team. And I can't do that if my hair is on fire all the time. Nobody loves connecting with someone when you feel like their head's in five places. Like, you need to be able to authentically sit down and connect with people without, your brain thinking about the next five places that you need to be. It's just like overscheduled is the first way to just like suck the joy out of life. And so that's just a hard stop for me. Now, I will also say one of the things that I'm so thankful for is that my husband, Adam, is like the best trip planner in the world. And so he works ahead of me on my schedule and will block out chunks of time way ahead of what I'm working, so that I know when I'm gone. And I'm thankful for that, because if I didn't have him doing that for me, or for us and for our family, I would have a tendency to just like work straight through and never take a break and just burn the candle from both ends. So I think there's a variety of things there that I do that I've just learned over time. And then also, it's amazing to have a partner that is, willing to kind of step in some of the gaps that I'm maybe not so great at too. Um, third question that chat asked me: what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs about overcoming self-doubt and embracing risk? So I would say overcoming self-doubt, or some people might call it imposter syndrome. I guess my thought on this, as I've talked to so many different entrepreneurs and so many successful people that all have that headspace. Like, the reality is that most successful people actually always feel self-doubt, or if you want to call it imposter syndrome, which is so overused right now, but I would say that's normal. It's just normal. It doesn't mean it's real. It's the bully in your head talking. So give it a name, tell it, bye Felicia, and just kick it out of your brain whenever it happens. Don't let that stop you. It reminds me of, I feel like I'm saying a lot of like phrases, but like popular phrases, but one of the things that always pops into my head is, the funny thing about fear is that when you run towards it, it runs away from you. And that's true. And that really ties into overcoming self-doubt. Is like, okay, do you let that thought just sit and spin in your head? Or do you just take action, move towards it? Because it's almost just like fear. Whereas if you just take the next step that you need to make, or action, it's going to be the thing that just purges that from you. And so I would say, also, like, none of us, I read this not long ago, and it was, oh, you know what? I read it on my calendar flip thing. I have one that one of my girlfriends bought for me a couple years ago. And anyway, it says, like, none of us actually know what we're doing, right? But just move forward anyway. Like, just go do the next thing. And don't think that everybody else is going through our journeys, and we actually know everybody else knows what they're doing and you don't, because that's not true. And as far as embracing risk, for me, that's a tough question. And I am just actually naturally a bit more of a risk taker. I that's not scary for me. There are other people that are more of a stabilizer. Like my husband, Adam, is more of a stabilizer. So he's a bit more risk adverse, whereas I'm like going to be the first one to jump off the cliff. So obviously there ends up being a balance there. And it's one of the reasons I'm thankful for him. But, I think different people are going to have different amounts of risk that they're comfortable tolerating. I will also say is that most oftentimes, to get to the next stage or the next level or wherever you're headed, it's going to take some level of you being uncomfortable and embracing some type of risk, whether it be socially it's risky or it's financially risky. There's going to be some type of risk involved in it, and just knowing that it's going to be hard to move forward without and reach the goals you have without you embracing some type of associated risk. And just that's not something that can detour you. Not to say that you don't calculate the cost. That's obviously important as well. All right. Next question that chat asked me. What strategies have been most effective in building strong relationships with carriers, so insurance carriers, and clients at Aspire? So it's funny that this question came up because we had do an operations team meeting every Monday morning, and this we have like a little topic that we'll talk about, and this was a topic for today. And I would say that the strategy that we have is to just stay good at the basics. We don't need to be all extra fancy. One of the basics that we have been built on, because we are referral based, it means that our basics is relationships. We just have to be really good at relationships and taking care of the people that we have as part of our organization. That means me taking good care of my team. It means my team taking good care of our clients. And so I feel like there's no like strategy as far as like an ulterior motive or fancy way about it. But I really truly feel like we just need to stay good at the foundation pieces, like the very basics. And if we stay committed to that and, connected and committed to our foundation, which is relationship, then the rest of everything falls in order. Like I take good care of my team. My team takes good care of clients. We take good care of clients, and the referral partners that sent them to us continue to send them to us because we are taking good care of the people that they trusted us with. And it all comes full circle. So if you just stay good at your foundational pieces, you don't need to get all fancy. Just stay good at the simple foundational pieces. And for us, again, it's really, truly, it's about relationships, which is about people and truly caring about people. So I would say that that's our strategy. And it's as basic and as simple as that. And it's authentic. It's not and it wouldn't work if it wasn't authentic, because people can read right through that. Okay. Next question. What were some of the most significant challenges you faced when transitioning from working for other agencies to owning your own? This one pops out to me like right away. So when I first started, it was, just me and then my husband helping me when he had time. So at that time, my husband was like in chiropractic full time. And as probably many of you know, when you're a chiropractor, you have like weird hours. And so he had windows of time he was able to help me with. And we'd, shuffle kids around between me and him and parents. And sometimes we had some other outside help, whether it be other friends or drop in childcare kind of stuff. But so for the first few years, it was just him and I. And so then I started getting to a point where I'm like, I can't actually grow if I don't have help. And so that's actually where the hard part happened. So, and I think I hear this from so many other business owners, and it was such a rude awakening for me because I felt like, oh, I've worked so hard to get to a point where now I'm going to add team and then they're going to take the pressure off of me, is what you first think, and hiring and building a team has proven to be by far much harder than building a book of business. People are tough. I mean, they are really tough. And it's also become one of my largest passions and one of the most fulfilling things that I've ever done. I would say it's my favorite thing now is building a team and building people and creating that culture that just like pours into people and watches them flourish. It is so good. So good. But I will tell you, it started out so bad. I fell on my face. I am not kidding you. If you could look in our management system and see the long list of names that have been in and out of this organization in the few years where I was learning and falling on my face, your jaw might have to like get scraped off the ground. So I started off actually, ironically, learning leadership lessons from somebody that I held in high esteem in leadership circles. The problem is that my leadership style is very different than this other person's leadership style. So for a few years, I actually was very sure that I was a really, really horrible leader and that was an area that I just basically sucked in. And it was in 2020 when I did some testing on how, like our different hows, and I started digging into, the hows of the team, and my how is where I really like learned about my actual leadership style. And actually, I love leading. It's one of my favorite things. It's a privilege. It's something I don't take for granted. And I then learned my own authentic leadership style and was able to fully step into it and not try to, push myself into somebody else's style of leadership. And that's actually when everything really started clicking. And since then, like I said, it's just become this huge passion of mine. And it's something I'm highly invested in growing in and expanding in, because I feel like this is kind of like a little bit of a squirrel, but as our world becomes more digitized, we as people, our human condition has not changed, and it's not going to change. But the world is going to be more digitized. It was just yesterday where I saw there was some like robot it was overseas. It must have even been in like Europe or Asia. Anyway, this robot was a busser in a restaurant. It was actually cleaning tables. And I just thought to myself, but our need as humans to be connected and for strong, good leaders, like that need isn't going away. That, people wanting to connect, people wanting to be loved and led. And so that's why I feel like right now is a time where, if you're seeing leadership as a buzzword everywhere, like it is a time right now to like grow and expand and double down in this area because our people need that. So that I would say has been my biggest challenge, and now is probably one of our largest strengths. It's been a very fun to fail through. Now it's fun, and it was really not fun when I was falling on my face all the time. All right, next question is: the insurance industry is ever changing. How do you stay ahead of trends and prepare your team to adapt? That is a great question. So the insurance industry has always been a little bit antiquated, and there's a little element to it that still is, although the changes are happening faster than I've ever seen in almost 25 years. And I would say, there's been obviously the buzzword right now is AI, but there's a lot of different AI and insure tech, they call it, pieces coming into the market. Some of it's really interesting. Some of it is a distracted, shiny thing because, I think some companies think if you just slap the word AI on something, then it makes it, sexy and more appealing. But it's not actually as impressive as it it would seem to be. And so it's a distraction, to be quite honest with you. But I try to pay attention to the new tools that are ahead of us. But I also think like it's really, really, really important to have a strong philosophy, especially when it's around technology. So we one of our core values is innovation. So I am committed with Aspire to not getting stuck in the mindset of doing the same thing over and over again this way because it's the way that we've always done it. I want us to be having in our minds, is there a better or more efficient way that this can be done? On the flip side, I want to be careful that any technology that we adopt is aligned with our philosophy. Our philosophy is that we want to use technology that will help our team to become more personal, and connected with our clients. So I'm going to give you an example, and I'm going to show you how the philosophy helps me to decide. So there's a new product out, and it's really cool. I played with it a little bit, and it's very cool. But it doesn't actually, for my agency, and it's not meaning that it's not awesome and that it doesn't belong in other agencies. But there's a product called Gale, and it answers the phone. It can talk on the phone, and it's AI. Super cool. I mean, really innovative. I've actually had a conversation on the phone with a different AI that called when I was just testing it out, and it's amazing what can be done. Like, very cool. But I have to put it through my filter, right? And my filter is this a tool that helps my team to be more personal or personable with our clients? And for me, the answer would be no. Like, I feel like it's really important for the human connection for them to be able to answer answer someone, have a live person answer. Now, not to say that I wouldn't maybe use it for something after hours, or maybe use it at the end of like a phone tree if 4 people can't answer the phone or something of that respect. But I would say, just knowing your philosophy around technology, so that you have a filter of like what you will look at and what you will not look at, so you're not getting distracted by the shiny new things. The other suggestion or other guide that I use is making sure that whatever the new product that I'm looking at, that I'm looking to solve a particular problem for my team. And when my team knows that I'm looking to solve a problem for them, and I think this technology piece is something that will help solve a problem for them, they know that what I'm doing is I'm looking to ease their workload, that I'm looking to help them streamline something, or help a process not to get bottlenecked in a certain area. So that makes them, the team, so much more willing to adapt to change or new technology, because they know I'm working it for their good. They know our philosophy around technology, and they've bought into that, and they know the technology we bring in is trying to solve a problem that the operations team is having. And so when they know the guiding principles, and they know that we're solving a problem, then buy-in isn't a problem at that point. So advice and reflections is the next section that chat gave me. And one of the questions here is, what do you think is the biggest misconception people have about the insurance industry? So I love that question, because I feel like insurance, from the outside looking in, and I absolutely had the same perception, is so stinking boring, like stuffy. It reminds me of that meme that has like, if your insurance agent still wears these pants, you need to shop your insurance. And it's like the old guy wearing the big pleated front khaki pants and kind of baggy and like roll folded at the bottom. Anyway, I think the perception is like stuffy and nerdy, and it's just not. It is not boring. You're never bored. You always have something more to learn because it's ever changing, expanding, and growing. I would say one of my favorite things about this industry is, man, there are some amazing people in this industry. Like, just really amazing people. Like, the people that I connect with and meet, I'm just always amazed. It's a really, really amazing industry. And it's a hidden gem is what I would say. And I'm so glad that I fell into it, and I'm so glad that I've stayed. And I think that it gives people, really, no matter your personality, um, there is a seat for you in insurance, whether it's in underwriting or it's in operations or it's in sales. Like, there's something for everybody. And it's just a great place to be. I couldn't be more thankful for finding this industry, and the most, I totally fell into it. Not a plan at all. I was supposed to be a nurse. So, looking back at your journey, what's one piece of advice you'd give your younger self? I guess I would say just embrace the journey. And actually the joy is in the journey. I would say now that I'm this far into my career and I can look back, I can think of there's some times there's some like seasons, I would say, in my journey where I probably, like, if I was God, I'd say you were acting like a 2-year-old having a temper tantrum. Just when, seasons of life are not so hot. And just realizing that, like, I don't have to rush through it all, but realizing that, like, the satisfaction, the fulfillment, the joy is not actually in the destination. That goals are great, and it's important to set our sails. Goals are also, I always say, the best way to make God laugh. Or the best way to make God laugh is to tell him your plans. They're important, but also it's amazing to me. I remember one of my very first goals, I had a premium volume, I think, and I've had a bazillion goals since then. But this was one, I think it was when it was when we first met, or first turned 1 million in premium volume, which was a really long time ago now. And I remember, like, how exciting I thought that was going to be to hit that goal. And I remember when I hit that goal, it was so anticlimactic. I was like, remember having this thought inside of me, like, oh my gosh, I thought that there was going to just be like this, like the heavens open up, and it was just going to be like this fluttery feeling inside of me. And I was like, well, that literally, I was maybe excited for not even 5 minutes. And then I was like, well, what's my next goal? And I really learned in that moment, like, the joy is in the journey of it all. It's not in any kind of final destination. There isn't a, when I get here, then I'm going to be happy, or then I'll feel fulfilled, or when I get, the big house, or when I get whatever it is. I don't even care. Those are not the things that are fulfilling. The fulfilling parts are like who you become along the way, the journey itself, who you can impact and lift up, and whose lives you can make better. It's so much more like others focused than it is me focused at all. In fact, I don't even give 2 cares about myself. I just love my team and my family, and want to do everything I can to make their, like, lives and work better. I think that would be probably one of my biggest takeaways, is like, it's not in the things or the stuff or the accomplishments. It's in how you impact and uplift other people. Okay. Next question. Let's see here. What's one thing people might be surprised to learn about you? Well, okay. I have a couple things. I didn't prep for this, as I said before. So, okay. Surprised to learn about me. So, I'll give you like a really silly one, and then I'll give you one with a little bit more context. So my front teeth are fake, because when I was in fourth grade and I was giving my brother a buck on my banana seat bike, we got into a bike accident and I ran into the concrete basement of a church and knocked my two front teeth out. So that's a fun little funny fact about me. And surprised to learn, current day, I would say that I am definitely lean more on, I'm a bit more extroverted, I guess I would say. But that putting myself out in video and on social media and actually here on Unraveling Success is so hard for me. It's way harder. I thought it was going to be really fun, and it's been a huge stretch for me, and it's grown me, and I'm really thankful that I've taken the leap, but it is wildly uncomfortable. So and then I would say, um as far as past stuff, is that I only have a 2-year AA degree, because after I got into insurance when I was 20, I finished my generals and just got straight into insurance. And so I think, you'll be hearing a little bit more about that and how I'm using that as I go into my vision here for Unraveling Success in 2025. And to tie things up, how would I like to unwind after a busy day, or what are favorite hobbies and activities? So favorite hobbies and activities, I have a lot of them. I like to do a lot of different things. I love walking the Stillwater Loop. I love hikes that don't have a ton of elevation to them. Just ask my husband, because I do not like elevation, but I love hiking. Um, and about how much 6 or 7 months ago, I started kickboxing, and a friend invited a friend and me, and I thought, oh, there's no way I'm gonna enjoy this. This is like not me. I'm more of a hot yoga girl, is what was in my brain. But I like to try new things and expand my horizons. And one of the things I'm committed to is being brave enough to be a beginner or suck at something. It just definitely keeps you humble. And so I went in kind of with that mindset, like, oh, I'm going to be brave enough to be a beginner. I'll suck at this, and I'm sure I won't like it. But oh my gosh, I have absolutely loved it. So I am up at 4:15 every morning, and I am at kickboxing class that starts at 5. And it has become a highlight of my day. I actually am in that studio Monday through Saturday, so 6 days a week, and I just absolutely have so much fun. So I've not been the person to have like a ton of like aggression pent up in me or something like that, but it's man, like it's fun to punch and kick those punching bags. Who knew? So if you haven't tried it, you should try it. Um, and then as far as I love to read in the evenings. I love baths, so that's one thing I do often. And just spend time with my friends and family. I love to unwind with my family, and yeah, I love to sleep in on the one day that I get to sleep in. Um, so that's a little bit about my journey and some of my takeaways. And I felt like it's important to share, because it's really what sparked me starting Unraveling Success. Is one of the things that I noticed is, I've been in this industry. So as we all know, I just said this upcoming February marks starting my 25th year. And so it's been a minute. And, you know, Aspire's growth has been so fun. And in so many ways, I feel like we're just getting started. It's interesting because there's been so much hard work and so much grinding it out. And to be honest with you, so much of the time has just been me with my nose to the grindstone. I don't take much of the time to look up. But became a point where I started to realize that people were looking at me and asking me questions that I was asking other people, and perceiving some level of success, whatever that might be however they perceive success, and there would also be like, oh, it must be nice, and kind of like some little jokes and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if you only knew like all of the falling on my face I had to do to get to the point that I'm at now. And I just feel like there's also a lot of things I wish I knew when I first started in my entrepreneurship journey. One of them, honestly, is the importance of balancing your high highs and your low lows, right? Like, I didn't know emotionally how taxing entrepreneurship could be. And that was something I wish that I had known more about. And so I felt like Unraveling Success can be of a vehicle where people can kind of learn through other entrepreneurs or other business owners' journeys, about kind of what's behind the veil of, you see this, what would be an end result or somebody that's been successful, but like, what did they actually have to do to get there? And normalizing a lot of these like really hard journeys, or realize helping other entrepreneurs maybe just skip some tough steps, or know that this isn't just them, that this is hard for all of us, or no, you're not the only one that doesn't know what you're doing. Now that we don't either. So that's a big why. For me is just have it be a learning tool. I think there's so much power in sharing stories, and when we can learn from each other. And I also think in doing business, it just adds like that human element back into it, because that's what we're all human, and our journeys might be different, but just, you know, just sharing. It's really, this is the power of sharing and the power of stories, and helping to learn lessons through each other. So that's my why. I want to share a little bit about what I'm looking forward to in 2025. So 2025, you're going to still see this, guests like you have so far. And but we're going to be sprinkling in some different pieces. One is we're going to be doing a couples series the first quarter of 2025, where we're going to be interviewing couples that do business together. So I am actually going to have my husband Adam on the podcast with me for one of those episodes, and we will share a little bit about our journey together as working together. And I think you'll get so much out of it, because our journey working together has been pretty epic, I will say. And I'm not going to give you any more information on that. You're going to have to listen to the episode, but I will share, like, we got some good stuff to share. So whether, you probably, it'll hopefully inspire you and probably make you laugh a ton too. And then I'm going to do some more single episodes. We're going to continue to do our mashup episodes that we have already been doing. And I'm going to do also another series on, like, good, solid careers that, kids can look into after high school, where that you don't need a college degree. I'm a really big believer in not having our kids just go into debt to go into debt. And if your kids don't actually know really what they want to do, I just want to expose that there's other paths other than just going straight into college and a 4-year degree. More and more, when I'm hearing entrepreneurs out there talking, it's less and less about a 4-year degree, and it's more about the who. And I would tell you, for myself, that's also the case. And so I just want to have a different conversation about the path that we're setting our kids down. And this is near and dear to my heart, given the fact that my daughter is a senior this year, which is hard to believe. So she'll be 18 in January, and we are in the middle of these conversations right now. And then I'm going to just do some fun episodes like AMA, Ask Me Anything. So we'll be getting some questions from some of our listeners, and then I will go through and answer those questions. Kind of like what I just did here with chat, but from people rather than me prompting chat what to ask me. So that's a little bit of what you can expect to see in 2025. So I guess a little bit more variety, adding some series, and a little bit more interest there. So Thank you for listening to Unraveling Success. I am just going to put my own contact information in the notes of this episode, my LinkedIn, and I do actually have a personal website and that type of thing if you would like to reach out to me. I always love to help and to be a resource. Thanks for listening.